Hi, this is Frankie Valli with my good friend Jimmy Deele.
All right, guys. Wow, what a treat I have for you tonight. I was so excited. I met this gentleman about 2 years ago before COVID hit, and what an exciting performance it was, and great. But I have the wonderful Jimmy Deele here with his Celebrity Spotlight show, and then we also have the great Godfrey Townsend. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
How you doing, Godfrey? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, as best as can be expected under the circumstances, isn't it?
Well, you are a rock and roll guitar legend, and welcome to the show. So happy to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you so much. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah.
When did you first start playing guitar? Tell us about that.
It had to be when I was about 9 years old. I was taking piano lessons already, and I had wanted to play guitar, of course, when the Beatles came out, So that February of 1964 or whatever it was that they came on the Ed Sullivan Show, everybody went, whoa, this is what we should be doing. And that was when I kind of turned it around. I grew up in a very musical household. My parents were singers. My mother played piano. So I had a pretty good ear. I was banging around on the piano at a very early age at friends' houses and uncles and stuff like that. And my uncle told my mother, hey, he has a pretty good ear. You should get him a piano, And we got a piano in the house. I played piano. But then once the Beatles came out, that was a whole game changer, wasn't it? Everybody wanted to play guitar. And I had to do good with my piano lessons in order for my mother to allow me to take guitar lessons as well. Because imagine at the time it was probably $3 a lesson. So it was like $12 a month for lessons. Finally, she let me take guitar lessons, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was like an old Italian guy teaching me, 1 note at a time kind of stuff. And I just went, no, I'm going to do this on my own. And I kind of taught myself, really, to play guitar. Yeah, so, yeah.
Wow, awesome. So Paperback Writer, I heard, changed your life a little bit, right?
What's that?
Paperback Writer, I heard, changed your life a little bit. The Beatles?
Yeah, I have a thing hanging up in my living room, and it's some good friends of mine that do picture frame and artwork and matting and stuff like that. And they matted a whole bunch of my old singles that I bought when I was a kid, Beatles singles. And yeah, I can just remember looking at that Paperback Writer and Rain picture sleeve, just staring at it for hours while I'm listening to the record over and over again. And I just remember just going, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. Can I be one of those guys? Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. What about Alexis, the band? Tell us about your first band.
Oh, yeah.
So Alexis wasn't my first band, first band. I had other bands before Alexis, but that was probably the first, let's say, professional band that we started writing our own material, and we started playing at like a local place that was for original bands, like Kiss played there, and Billy Squire and stuff like that used to play there in the early days. That's how they got started. And so we started writing our own material like 1975, and we started playing at this place on Queens Boulevard in New York.
Coventry, is that
Coventry, exactly, Coventry. So it was advertised in the Village Voice magazine as, this is a place that everybody who hangs out at Max's Kansas City hangs out here when they come over the bridge to Queens or whatever. And it was really, like the New York Dolls played there, Kiss played there, Billy Squire's band played there, Elephant's Memory played there one night with us. I remember they had 3 stages, and there would be constant live music going on all night long,
I'm from Brooklyn. Did you ever play L'Amour's?
Oh, yeah, L'Amour's. What was the place in 2001, Odyssey?
Yes, sure, 8th Avenue.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yes, absolutely. Lemore's is right down the block, wasn't it?
Right. It was close. It was close by. They had a Lemore's down there, and then they had one on Queens Boulevard later on as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Doc, what do you have for Godfrey?
Well, you're an everything player. I mean, I've been on your lives, Godfrey, with you, and I've been, I tell you, great stuff. I mean, because you play a Beatles song, you'll play, whatever, and then you'd be a disco, whatever. But I do have a question for you from one of my friends, Gary Todakis Arnold. He wants to know.
Yeah, I know him.
Sixpence. He said you have a good backstory, and I'd like to hear that.
We have a couple right here. I have 3 of them right here that people have sent me. And I think he was even able to send me one from 1956, which was the year I was born. One of them is from 1956, but I have several Sixpence here. And it's a great story that when I stayed at Entwistle's house, of course, he had this wonderful 50-room castle in Gloucestershire in England.
Wow.
Called Quarwood Estate. And he had a collection of 200 guitars or more. And he had this wonderful big Gibson J200 guitar that he said to me, if you want to use it for some of the recording sessions that we do, because we recorded an album there. And I was playing the guitar to try to get used to it for the recording session, and I noticed that there were all these huge scratches on the front of this guitar, and it was a 60s J200. It was not a new one. It was a vintage J200 worth tons more money, and belonging to Entwistle made it even more of a celebrity-owned item.
Sure.
But anyway, he said, how did these huge gouges get in the front of the guitar? And he just looked at me and he said, Brian May.
Wow.
And I went, what? And he went, yeah, Brian May came over for dinner, and we had a few bottles of wine, and he was playing it after dinner. And Brian May plays with a Sixpence. So a Sixpence has a little serrated edge on the side of it, like a dime.
Oh.
Little serrated edge. So that's how he was able to get this kind of scrumpy kind of sound that he got when he played. That kind of dug into the strings with a little ridges on it, So it was Brian May playing his J200 after a couple of bottles of wine and scratching the whole front of it up, not realizing whatever.
That is so cool. I mean, that is a good backstory. I didn't really think that, but yeah, just the coin itself can have a different sound.
Yeah,
you got it a string, and then of course, that's really awesome.
Brian May uses a Sixpence. Billy Gibbons, I believe, from ZZ Top, uses a peso.
Wow.
Peso. And there's a guy, Stuart Peso Pick, his name is. And I know him on Facebook, and he sent me a couple of pesos that he made into guitar picks. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of a peso, but it's, made into the shape of a guitar pick, so that you can have like a real peso guitar pick or whatever. So, interesting backstories to a lot of this stuff,
Can you see that? A lot of your friends are saying hi. I just want to make sure you see that.
Yeah,
Mark,
no,
a friend of mine as well. Yes.
Yeah, I see them. There's Mark Biner, my friend Godfrey. Yeah, sure. I saw a lot of them going by.
I just want to make sure you saw them. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Questions, I'll ask them, or Jimmy will ask them. Yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
Yeah, in 1993, you hit the rock scene in New York City at the China Club. Tell us about that.
Oh, wow. That was great. At the time, I was still doing my day job gig, which was delivering major appliances. Believe it or not, I had my own van, had my own hand truck, had my own helper, and I worked for like a mom and pop store. And I did a lot of their deliveries for them. I worked in the store at first when I first got married, and then the driver, the delivery guy, would quit, and I would take over. So I eventually became the guy. So I was doing that, and after Yes, I have a 1956 Sixpence.
That's my brother from another mother. He's my friend. Yeah.
And Tim Dubé listening from Florida with JoJo. I instead of like when the heat waves hit, I'd have to deliver the air conditioners, and I would probably deliver and install 35 air conditioners every day of a heat wave or whatever, and instead of coming home and sitting on the couch and grabbing the remote and doing that, I would get in my van and I would take a shower, get in my van, and drive to the China Club in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And go in, and I knew a couple of guys there. Mitch Weissman was the Paul McCartney from Beatlemania on tour.
Right, yeah.
So he hung out there. He was doing a lot of the work, and he hung out in the office there, and a few other buddies of mine that hung out there or whatever. And so it would be a hit or miss if they get me up to play a song or whatever, and get to sit in with some people. And
so cool.
And that's how I got to meet a lot of musicians in New York City. And I used to learn a lot of cover tunes on my own. So I got this kind of a reputation as, oh yeah, this guy knows all the songs. Get him up there because he knows that. Oh, somebody wants to sing "All Right Now" by Free. This guy knows the solo and everything. Get him up there. And after a while, I became like a welcomed face there, and then I wound up running the Jam after a while.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of funny, though, Godfrey. That's kind of funny because I interviewed Dave Zane, and Dave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with
Gary Puckett or the Buckingham.
Buckinghams.
Oh right.
And he said the same thing. He was just, he just knows the songs, and okay, you're in the rhythm section.
Right.
You know the song. That's really cool how you developed in that. But let's talk a little bit about the '60s and the Happy Together tour, because that music is still what I grew up in, right? And it's a lot of people have memories of it. What is your fondest memories of the Happy Together tour when you're with them? Is there certain songs that you like playing different other than others?
I was one of those kids that grew up in the '60s, and we would go to like Rockaway's Playland, and on all the rides they'd have all these big horn speakers, and they'd be playing WABC radio or WMC
nice
radio, and you'd be hearing all these songs coming out of these speakers while you were on these rides as kids, and it's like all of a sudden 50 years later or more, I'm playing with all these guys and get to play and sing these songs with these guys. And, I have fond memories because there were certain songs that really stayed with me from my youth. A lot of the Gary Puckett stuff, Young Girl and all those kind of songs, the Cowsills are a blast to work with. Hi, Debbie. Of course, the Turtles, all that stuff, growing up with all that stuff. We even had Spencer Davis on the Happy Together tour, and I worked with him back in the 90s with Mitch Weissman from Beatlemania. So getting to play with Spencer again in his old age, he just passed away last year.
Yeah.
So I would have to say that between Happy Together and Hippie Fest, Happy Together's been out for 10 years now. We did 10 whole years out.
Wow, that's amazing.
From 2010, we were doing it, and Mickey Dolenz and Mark Lindsay from Paul Revere and the Raiders and the Cowsills and the Association and the Buckinghams and Gary Puckett and all these bands that this is music that we grew up with. I used to just sit there and stare at the album covers, while you're listening to this music, So to be working with these guys and to have them all have the confidence, because that's the thing. My band that I use to back up everybody, we're fanatics about doing it like the record.
To make it sound like it is, right? Gotcha.
We just feel like people come to see someone play live, they want to hear how they're used to hearing it. They don't want to hear your new slowed down version or your Christmas song or any of that stuff. They want to hear the records like they can hear if they go home and put them on the turntable. So I would immediately tell all the guys, here's the original recordings. These are the original recordings. If it's the Wrecking Crew or whoever it is that played on it, play what they played. We'll sing what they sang. If these guys want to change it up, the arrangement or whatever, we can always do that. But first learn that version, note for note, so that you have the basics of what the song is. That's why the song was a big hit, because it sounded like that. So we would do that. And Mark Lindsay was doing a phone interview while we were on the bus one year, and they were asking him how he's liking touring with us or whatever. How is it? And he just said, the band is great. I feel like I'm walking out on stage and I'm singing along to my master recordings. That's what he said. So that's kind of the reputation that we're proud to have, is that we're like a modern day live version of the Wrecking Crew, that we can just go do that and it sounds like the record. We have a keyboard player who can play piano and organ, and if there's any strings or horns, he's got that covered, and he's singing a harmony vocal at the same time. And the rest of us are all lead singers, so we can nail the vocals.
We have a question from Tricia in Sun City, Florida. She wants to know, who were some of your influences growing up?
Well, of course, we all grew up with the Beatles. There were a few earlier than that, but I would say from the time that we all got turned on to the Beatles is where our musicianship started to mature to a certain place. And then from there, we were turned on to all these other bands. And I got into The Who, and I got into Led Zeppelin, and I got into Hendrix and Cream, and all that stuff. So as far as music goes, that was it, really. I grew up in a house with opera and classical music. So when classical rock came out, that was a term for it at the time, like Genesis or Emerson, Lake and Palmer or King Crimson or whatever these bands that were playing this orchestral, Procol Harum, bands like that. I got into a lot of that stuff as well, heavily, but Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, that was the main stuff,
Did you pick up a guitar right away? Were you natural at playing the guitar?
What was cool was that because I didn't like what my teacher was teaching me, I kind of quit taking lessons after about a month. And because I already played the piano, I had a like a basic understanding of how instruments work and where the notes are. Once you learn how to play the piano, you can almost pick up any other instrument and make a sound, Okay. And so I got a guitar, and we had something called a fake book, which was a wedding band item, really. Right. A lot of wedding bands had these fake books, and it would be, a bootleg thing that someone would go out and buy all the top 10 hits or 40 hits of the time period and the sheet music, and they'd photostat them and they'd make them all into one book, like 50 songs into one book. Mm-hmm. They'd sell it for $5 or something like that, So one of the guys in my earliest band, his dad was in a wedding band, so he would get us these fake books. So the sheet music would have the little chord thingies there where you put your fingers, and that's an E chord, and that's an A chord, and that's a C chord. So I would listen to the radio and hear the songs on the radio, and then kind of play along with the fake book and see what the chords were, and that's how I learned how to play guitar. Really.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's great. Doc, what else do you have for Godfrey?
I wanted to ask him about his radio show. Can you tell us a little bit about you had a radio show?
I had a radio show.
Didn't you?
No. I was doing a thing called Live from the Bunker. Maybe that's.
Oh, that's what we mean. Go ahead.
And it was basically a Facebook Live thing. You know, you could just go on Facebook and do a live
Gotcha. Okay.
stream. And because I was living in the basement, this was my parents' house where I'm living right now, and I lived in the basement in my old basement apartment. So I used to call it Live from the Bunker because a friend of mine used to joke about that I looked like I lived in a bunker. So we called it Live from the Bunker. And then, of course, when we had to hunker down for the lockdown with the COVID thing,
Right.
I was doing live hunker from the bunker, from up here, where I was still doing it, but I was doing it with my iPad or with something else or whatever that I was using to do the stream with. And I would spend so much time getting all the sounds right, like putting everything through a really nice mixer and getting nice reverbs on everything and making it sound really nice. And it would sound amazing to me here in my house, but the stream, after I would listen to it, I would go back and listen to it after the fact, and it was horrible. The video was grainy. There was all these ugly frequencies popping out everywhere in the audio, and I just said, you know what, I can't do this. Even though people were enjoying it as it was,
I get what you're saying.
as a professional musician, I was like, I can't be putting that out there like that, you know.
Yeah,
so,
the sound quality's not there. I get exactly what you're saying. You want to make sure that it comes out crystal clear, like you're actually recording in the studio.
So I invested some money into a Roland streaming mixer. I bought a couple of GoPro cameras, and I just can't get it to work right. I have mics, I have mixers, I have all kinds of stuff. So actually, as we speak, tomorrow, there's supposed to be a couple of guys coming over, and they're going to try to help me with the technology end of it.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I'm just a real perfectionist at things, but I like to be able to can I just do the music part and someone else push the buttons and push the faders and whatever? Because when it comes to doing all that stuff, it kind of distracts me. See, people miss the bunker session.
Oh, sure.
Yes, absolutely.
They've been asking me, you know, and another thing is a lot of guys that were out of work musically or whatever were doing these things from home and putting up their PayPal things and trying to earn money. And I just thought, you know what? All right, so let them do that or whatever, you know. I don't want to conflict with their way to make money or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm going to start doing them again. Hopefully after tomorrow, when we get this situation sorted out, we're going to meet up here somewhere around noon and take all day and try to get it done. So maybe I'll do a quick impromptu one tomorrow.
Yeah, let me know how you make out with that, because actually we just started our own Roku channel. So I have events. I can do live events right on the TV all over the world for you.
Oh, wow.
Just let me know.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if we can work some way through that and do, you know, you can feed it or something like that.
Right. If Facebook shuts you down, YouTube shuts you down, you're still on the Roku channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be great.
And it's archived too. We can archive it.
I'm trying to get my YouTube channel going, because if you have 1,000 subscribers, you can monetize it. In other words, I can start earning some money in that way as well. Say, for instance, I'm using a product that I'm using this product and I'm playing on one of my live streams using a Vox wah-wah or a Crybaby wah-wah or something like that, and I'm demonstrating something. I can put an affiliate link in that feed.
Right.
Anyone who buys the product, then, as a result of seeing it on my live stream, I get a piece of the action, whether it's $1 or whatever it is. So it's just a way to be earning more income. And as you get older and things are getting a little rougher out there, you try to think of, how can I make a living from home? And there are people doing it. There's a guy who does guitar stuff. He does guitar instructions on YouTube, and he's a millionaire.
That's great. It's great.
So I don't really need to be a millionaire. I wouldn't mind being a millionaire.
Not a bad deal.
whatever. It's when you get older, you kind of slow down. My wheels were always spinning when I was younger, which is, I think that's how I got to where I got to, because it was always a plan. There was always a demo tape in my pocket, and Mick Jones is going to be at the Hard Rock in the city. Go in there, give him a tape. Whether you have a 104 fever or whatever, I would be there handing someone a tape or whatever, and just always trying to make things happen. So, I think that builds up. You pay your dues in one way or another,
Just like radio.
Yeah. Yeah. But at 64, the wheels are slowing down a bit.
Yeah.
How can I just chill out and not have to do all that stuff, especially traveling? Traveling has become a nightmare,
I can imagine.
Even before this all started, traveling has become a nightmare. And we were touring. We must have toured the world a half dozen times with Alan Parsons' project. And we were always running for planes and getting stuck.
It's not as a great life people think it is, right? It's just it's not as glorious as it's supposed to be.
What's funny is that we used to get an opportunity to bring either one of our wives or girlfriend, whoever you had or whatever, on tour. Like, say, for instance, we would be doing a small mini tour with Parsons, and he'd say, any of your wives want to come and do merch? And we would be able to bring one of our wives on the tour to do merch. And of course, then we would be in the airports at 5 o'clock in the morning online with our stuff. And we would be going, you see? And the wives would be going, all right, we get it. We understand. It's not as wonderful as we thought it was. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. What about your interview with May Pang? Tell us about that. I know you were pretty good friends with her.
Yeah, well, that's been taken down, I think, since. That was a couple of years back when she still lived in Pomona. She lived up in Pomona, and of course, May is famous for having her several times a year shindigs, and they're the three things out of the not too many things that I look forward to all year. One of them she has on Memorial Day, and one she has on Labor Day, and then another one is on her birthday at the Cutting Room. And so there's always like a great amount of musicians that we get together and we jam and play at her parties. And it's guys like Simon Kirk or Mark Hudson or Paul Schaefer and all kinds of people show up for these things, and we get to play.
What about a walk down Abbey Road?
So a walk down Abbey Road, I was already playing with John Entwistle, okay? And he was asked to do this package tour with 4 other artists where they would do a tribute to the Beatles. And each artist would get to do a few of their own hit songs or whatever, and then do covers of Beatles songs. So it was John Entwistle, Alan Parsons, Todd Rundgren, and Ann Wilson.
Nice.
And David Pack was there from Ambrosia as well. Alan Parsons brought him along to sing his songs because Alan didn't sing his own songs. And Entwistle brought me to sing the Who stuff.
So great.
And after like a couple of days of rehearsal, no one knew how anything went and Godfrey, what's this part, and what's this harmony, what's this part, and I became the musical director just by knowing all the Beatles stuff, and feeding people harmony parts and whatever. And so that was pretty amazing.
Did you ever meet any of the Beatles? Ever work with any of the Beatles?
I never met one of them.
Really?
No, I never met not a one. I really would have loved to have met George. Came close to meeting John once. I remember they were doing a thing in Central Park, and he pulled up. There was a show in the meadow. What is it called? The sheep meadow. There was a big free concert going on, and he pulled up in a limo with Harry Nilsson, and they went on stage and spoke a bit, and then just got back in the car and took off or whatever. But that was about it. Never met any of them. No.
Wow. What about James Burton?
James Burton, I believe he was at a show that I played. That's what I had heard. One of the shows that I played in Laughlin with the Beatlemania guys, we were doing a show called the Jukebox Giants.
I remember the show. I often go to Nevada, so I was actually in Laughlin when you were doing that show.
Oh, wow.
Flamingo Hilton. We were at the Flamingo Hilton.
That's right. I remember.
And that was where I met a lot of the people that I've been working with as well over the years. Mitch Weissman invited me out to do that show. He said, "Hey, we're doing this show. Can you come out and play guitar on it?" And I was in pretty bad shape at the time, and I just went, "Oh, I don't know if I can do it." And he was like, "Come on, man, we know you can do it." And it pretty much saved my life, and it put me on the road to my career. It really did start me off, because it was while I was out there doing that gig for 3 months that I got the call from Entwistle to be in the Entwistle band. So
Wow.
I was working with Joey Molland, Mitch Ryder, Spencer Davis.
Wow, all great names.
Tiny Tim even was on the show. Merrily
Wow.
Rush, Angel of the Morning.
So great.
Right.
Len Barry from the Dovells, Sal Valentino from the Beau Brummels. So it was like a variety show like that, where everybody came out and sang 3 songs, and we backed up everyone, you know.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Great show. Jukebox Giants. I remember it well.
Jukebox Giants, yeah. And then the guy who produced that show called me up a few years later and said, "Hey, I got a doo-wop band that their guitar player just left, and I would love if you can fill in and give us do us a favor and fill in." I'm like, "Oh man, that's not really my thing. I don't know anything about that music." And he goes, "Oh, come on, we know you can do it." And I wound up staying with them for like 3 years. And it was a band called Kenny Vance and the Planetones.
Oh, yeah, Kenny Vance. Sure. I know who that is.
So I played guitar with them and sang with them for like three years. And some of the members were Gary Bonner, who wrote Happy Together and She'd Rather Be With Me and Celebrate for Three Dog Night. Ed Hokinson, who was in the Brooklyn Dreams, I believe, wrote Donna Summer's Bad Girls. This is who some of these people were that were in this band, And I learned so much about harmony vocals and how to produce, it really helped me out a lot later on in years when I had to delegate vocal parts to the band members. And you do a harmony part and everybody's singing the right part, but it just doesn't sound right. And then you just mix those vocals. All right, you take the high part, you take the low part. Let's see what that sounds like. And it's just the right vocal blend makes it just all fall into place, And you just learn stuff like that from people,
So cool. I wanted to ask you a question. What about your music, your own music? We still play your music here, but your CD. What was the inspiration for that CD? Because all the songs are great.
12 years old now, that CD, or 13.
I know, but it's a freaking great CD. I mean, it's instrumental, but it's freaking rocks.
Yeah. I mean, it took me many, many years to not to do it, because when we actually did it, yes, Gary Bonner, Wayne. When we actually started to record the thing, I asked my drummer at the time, Steve Murphy, "Hey, can you play drums on a couple of tracks for me?" And he went, "Yeah, sure." And I said, "I'll send you 3 things and put some drums on them, and I'll pay you whatever for your time." And he just called me up like a few days later and went, "Wow, this stuff is very cool. Let's just do a whole album." And we started it like in October of 2006. And by March of 2007, we had a finished product in our hand, and that was just by me going over his house once a week in West Orange, New Jersey, and spending the day there working on the stuff. He would work after hours on percussive stuff and all, like he produced it with me as well.
Right.
But I had been writing the stuff and doing demos for many, many years for that material. And a lot of it's what started out as vocals tunes, like with lyrics and stuff, but I didn't like where it was going. I didn't like the lyrics. I kept, throwing it in the garbage or whatever. And until I finally just got frustrated and I just started playing the melodies on the guitar. And then I thought, I could just make this an instrumental thing, which is probably why it's a little more musical than some other guitar shredding albums. You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys, they just put out shredder albums where it's all about how many millions of notes they could play a minute, and the chord progressions are pretty simple and basic, just for them to have a vehicle to play all these scales over and stuff. But this is more of a melodic thing, which is what I've been told by some of the reviewers over the years, you know, so that's kind of cool. And there's plenty more material. There's 3 albums worth of material still. I have 3 albums of material, and a lot of it was written in the 70s. So it's so retro and so outdated that it's back in again. It would be great if I could get the stuff re-recorded and get it out there, you know.
Was it well received?
The album?
Yeah, I was well received for me, but it was everybody else.
It was pretty well received. Everyone I gave one to, they took it. I probably gave away more than I sold, but
that's an artist thing, you know that. It's you want people to hear your music, right? So
yeah, they used to call it the LA handshake. You go to shake somebody's hands and you put tape in their hand at the same time. A demo tape. All about the pump. Yeah, the pump was that. It was inspired by Jeff Beck's song "The Pump" from the There and Back album, and Michelle paid for her.
That's funny, Godfrey, but most of the time, you know, the way artists are, it's do you want the music out there? Either you got to put it out.
Look, I'm not a teeny bopper. I wasn't thinking I'm going to get rich off it. I just wanted to get it out there from my head. You know what I mean? So that's really what I wanted to do. And as long as people got it and liked it, that's what counts, really. An artist, part of his enjoyment is creating, and the other half is having people hear it and go, "Ooh, I like this." You know, that's the other half of the enjoyment. Half of it is creating, half of it is getting complimented. So that's all it takes. And will I continue to do Clapton shows is the question. Once the world reopens, I'm sure we're going to do some Clapton shows once the world reopens. But personally, we have to see what happens. In regards to the Happy Together tour going out, I was just talking with the tour manager, producer on the phone the other day. We touch base every once in a while and just, so what do you think? Blah, 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 and talking about what's happening. And of course, we have 50 shows booked already. We had 60 shows booked for last summer that had to be pushed to this summer. And I just said to him, it wouldn't be cost effective for us to go out there and work at a 10% or 25% capacity.
Yeah.
You have
not anybody there. It's just not
tour buses full of people, a crew, the gas, tolls, bus drivers, hotels, flights, whatever, all this stuff that has to be paid for. And you can't skip a couple of states because their mandate is different than the ones you're in now, or, unless it opens up 100%, it's not cost effective for us to take a tour like that out on the road. If the Stones aren't going out and the Who are not going out, and how do we belong out there? McCartney even said, "I'm not touring anymore." How do we belong out there then if these guys are not doing it? So
yeah, it's a tough.
Look, it'll be over, but it's not going to be over that fast. You know what I mean, right? I've been watching the Ken Burns documentary on the Dust Bowl pandemic that happened in the Panhandle during the Depression, and that lasted for 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It's going to take a while for it to come. We're in New York too, so
I'm not saying this is going to last for 10 years.
No, but but
I'm
it's going to be a year or two. Yeah,
we're only a year into it at this point. You know what I mean?
It's going to be a while.
Well, focus on the positive. We're going to stay positive. Have you decided to do any type of Broadway shows as far as background music or soundtracks like that for movies?
Have I ever? A lot of what I write is soundtrack music. That's a lot of what I write. I don't write silly love songs. You know what I mean? Maybe I have a couple, but I'm, like I said, because I was brought up with opera and classical music, it's more of where my head is. It's more of how I hear things. Everyone hears the world differently, isn't it? And that's kind of how I hear things. Very orchestrated, very big sounding, whatever. You can hear it in the album, in that CD, even. You know. So I've always dreamt of it. And one of my heroes is Hans Zimmer, who's done movie soundtracks for like 1,000 movies. He's like probably working on 10 at a time right now. He's done everybody's movies. And there's a great live DVD of him live in Prague. So it's Hans Zimmer live in Prague, and he's playing like with a full orchestra and a full band and doing all his soundtrack music. And it's the most incredible thing. And it's in Prague, and the place is filled, packed to the rafters. It's like the size of Nebworth.
Wow.
So he's my hero, really my hero. But once I really got aware of how many great soundtrack composers there are out there, I just thought, my God, that's like another one of those playing the lottery things where you got to get on the back of the line. You know what I mean? Because, you know, once you're in a clique, you get all the right gigs, you know. And, you know, it's happened with me from playing with one guy or this guy and that guy. Now I'm in there. People are going, hey, you know, whatever. How fortunate, the most fortunate thing was to be called up by someone and just be offered the Yardbirds gig.
That's so great. Really humbling view.
That's what I mean. It's like, and I remember when she called me, I was out on the West Coast with Happy Together, having my coffee at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was 10 o'clock here, and she's calling me all gung-ho, and I'm waking up, taking my sips, and it's not really hitting me, you know. And I'm going, the Yardbirds, huh? And I'm thinking, oh, you know, Yardbirds, wow, okay, interesting. Who's left? Who's in the band? What kind of gigs are they doing at this point or whatever? And I said, you know, my mom had just passed away, and I was out on tour, and I just knew I had things to do when I got home, take care of her business and all the finances and all that stuff. And so I was going to just take a year off. I was just going to go, all right, you know what? I'm not going to do anything for a year. I had the luxury of being able to do that. But as the day went on, and I was telling Mark Volman from the Turtles or whoever, Mark Lindsay, whoever I was running into, hey, guess what? You know, I got called this morning, and she asked me if I wanted to join the Yardbirds, if I would be interested in playing guitar in the Yardbirds.
Nice.
And everybody was like, oh, my God, your dream gig. And I just said, is it? Yeah, I guess you're right. It is my dream gig, isn't it? Because, I mean, I grew up learning how to play guitar from all three of those guys that were in that band, that came out of that band. So what a perfect gig for me, you know.
Awesome.
And they're the nicest guys. Jim McCarty is the original drummer. And he's the sweetest guy. We get along very well. I get along very well with every one of the bands. Kenny Aronson is on bass guitar. A real talented singer, guitar player named John Iden has been with them for 30 years on and off. Mike Scavone, who was in Black Betty. Is that the name of the band?
Yeah,
I believe so, yes.
No, the song is Black Betty. The band is Ram Jam.
Ram Jam, yeah.
He was in that band. So he plays harmonica, he plays percussion, you know, and it's a really nice rounded band, and everybody gets along amazingly. The crew guys are all great. Everyone is wonderful, you know. So, and then bam, everything starts hitting. And we've only actually done 20 gigs or so over the last couple of years. I'm in the Yardbirds, but we don't ever play. So,
that's so sad.
I'm much more looking forward to doing that when things come back, you know.
Did you work with Barry Gibb as well?
Never. No.
Never.
No, never. At one point, interestingly enough, it was being entertained because they knew we had this band that could kind of back up anyone.
Mm-hmm.
That the Bee Gees were going to do like a retrospective tour of their whole career, and they were looking for a band to back them up, and we were being considered for that.
Nice. I saw a picture of you and the Bangles. Did you work with the Bangles, or you just met them?
Didn't work with them. That was during the Walk Down Abbey Road tour.
Okay.
We were playing at a place called Humphreys by the Bay in San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and they were there the night before.
Oh, okay.
Well, I went to their show, and then I was hanging out with them backstage. Had a huge crush on Susanna Hoffs, like every other
every guy.
Absolutely.
human
Absolutely.
being.
Godfrey, I like your website. Your website's really, really done nice, and it's every little aspect of it is done really, really well. So congratulations on that.
Oh, you know what? It's so old, and I did it myself. And to me, I think it's so archaic. It's kind of like a book report, from school, from like grammar school. And someone was going to do a new website for me, and I didn't jump on it fast enough. And she kind of got fed up and kind of went, all right, well, let me know when
it's okay.
Get your act together, whatever. I just did. I did everything on that website, and it's all the little details, all the context, all the little things or whatever. And of course, I want to just tear it all apart and redo it all, which it's kind of the thing you would do during a pandemic, isn't it?
Exactly.
I just love the pictures. We're going to scroll through them. Any people that you wanted to meet, never met yet?
Joni Mitchell would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've even met Clapton for like a split second, but there's not too many people. I would have loved to have seen Dan Fogelberg in concert.
He was awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big fan of his stuff, but I've met so many people that I grew up listening to, and it's almost surreal when you're standing there with them. How many nights I was on stage playing with them, and just, in the middle of a song, you just look over and you go, holy crap, that's the guy. That's the actual guy,
It's so funny you talk about that, but then I'm looking through some of the pictures and I see Dennis Dunaway from Alice Cooper. I just read Jimmy Deal, the list of people that we've had on the radio station over the years. Dennis Dunaway was one of them.
Yep.
The guy from Pat Travers' band, Sandy Gennaro, the drummer. All these people.
He's a buddy of mine. Dennis is a buddy of mine as well. And, I just met him doing some Rock for Christmas benefit thing at the Roseland Ballroom years ago. And,
I remember that.
And we were playing with the Yardbirds. We played at Daryl's place. And
yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Dennis and his wife Cindy came to the show, and afterwards we were just sitting in a booth together. Jim,
oh, man, I would love to show you sometime. It's so awesome.
We used to play all that Alice Cooper stuff, and he shows up at all the Maypang things as well. He's another one of the celebrity guys. Him and Joey Bouchard and Albert Bouchard from Blue Oyster Cult.
Right.
They have a band, and so they're always there jamming. Vince Martell from the Vanilla Fudge.
We're good friends with Vince, yes.
Yeah. All these guys are just always at these parties, and we get to play together and have fun with no pressure that it's, not a real gig or whatever that we have to
I'd just like to be a fly on the wall in one of the places one day.
Doc would have been in heaven.
Yeah. Jimmy, any questions for our guests?
Well, you know what? If somebody's just starting out in the business today as a guitarist, what advice would you give them?
Starting out in the business is a big, wide thing, isn't it? What about
as a guitarist?
If you just want to be a guitar player in a band, like you're just thinking, I'll get as good as I can on the guitar, and then someone will discover me, and I'll be in a band, and I'll be their guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say? It's all about what they're looking for, and if you've got it,
Mm-hmm.
Or right place at the right time. If you're a hard enough worker, I always tell my band guys, because we're backing up all these guys who have been out there for 50 years or more.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And all right, it's important to be a good musician. It's important to be able to play the right parts and the right stuff, make the right sounds. The artist has to be happy. But more importantly, if you're traveling on a tour bus all summer or whatever, they're going to want you to be a nice guy as well, and easy to work with and easy to get along with and live with. So I always tell them, you want to be the guy who's remembered as, oh, that guy was easy to work with. He was a breeze to work with, and he was a good player. If you can be a good player and an easy to work with guy, you've got two feathers in your cap for that gig, you know. So that's it. I mean, there's a million guys out there that can all play circles around me and whatever and whoever else, and that has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Isn't it? Like, right. You can't think, oh, I'm the best, man, so I can have an attitude, you know. The more, you know, what I've found is that the greater the musician that you meet, the less of an attitude they have, actually, you know, because they don't have to prove anything. They don't have to prove anything to anybody, you know, and they've been through life enough to know that it costs nothing to be a nice guy.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you there. Totally agree with you.
You know, so that's really it. You know what I mean?
Out of all the people you worked with, Godfrey, do you have a particular favorite? You worked with everybody in the world.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, of course, growing up, I had my idols, my favorite people, and it was the Who and Cream and whatever, you know. And so, of course, working with John Entwistle from the Who was unbelievable, you know, and working with Jack Bruce from Cream, you know. And I mean, I went to their houses, I hung out at their houses with them and saw them as human beings. And they both said the most wonderful things to me, which is worth more than anything. I mean, I remember when I first started working with Entwistle, we were going through like 20 blizzards in a row here in New York City. It was like January 1996. And I had to drive into Manhattan when I think Giuliani was our mayor at the time. And he was saying, no one on the roads except for medical emergency personnel.
Right.
I was driving into Manhattan in my old 86 Dodge van, driving to the Mayflower, picking up Entwistle, and then driving up to Pelham to rehearse at some loft up there. So we'd have to drive up the Henry Hudson Parkway in a blizzard, 2 hours to get up there. Wow. And it would just be him and I in the van, and I'm trying to break the ice with it. And, you know, and one night I just said to him, you know, this is really crazy for me, because when I was young, I used to dream that I was in the Who.
Yeah.
And he turned around to me and he goes, that's funny. I used to dream that I was out of the fucking Who.
I love that.
So that was what he said to me. That really made my day. And when I went to Jack Bruce's house, we sat around in his basement and drank wine and had a, you know, chat, and we were playing the piano, and I was playing like some Jack Bruce's solo stuff on the piano, and it's pretty obscure deep cut stuff, and he'd come over and he'd go, no man, and he would show me how it was played, and I go, wow, that's really it. Wow, it really sounds so much more like it now, you know, thanks a lot. And I remembered that. And then he took us out to dinner at some pub, local pub. And afterwards, when we were getting back on the train or whatever, he said, man, thanks a lot for making a great night for me. Those memories of those songs. Thanks for bringing that stuff up, man. I love you. You know, and it was like, so, you know, like you couldn't write this scene for yourself. You wanted to, you know what I mean? So it was really good stuff like that. And like I said, to be able to have the respect from all these guys that they know that the tour manager can put a new guy on the tour and just go, we got the association are going to come in and do this summer. So you call up whoever, Jim Yester or whoever, and you find out what 6 songs they're going to want to play, and let them send you the material and blah blah blah, and they can just jump on a 50-date tour for the summer without ever having met the band, and be confident. Oh yeah, no, we've spoken to everybody. All of our friends said they've worked with you guys, and you guys are the best. Blah blah blah, and they can walk on that tour, do maybe a day or 2 of rehearsals before we go out on a 60-day tour, and they know that all the bases are covered. Everything's going to be just as they need it, you know. So
I got to ask you a question, Godfrey. I got to ask you this question because I know you're so humble. You're such a great guy, but was it worth the struggle? Then everything you went through, was it worth the struggle? And I got to say.
Of course, because I don't remember the struggle anymore.
Right.
That's gone.
It's just all uphill now.
That's gone.
Exactly.
You know, one night I was playing with the Turtles, right? So I was an official member of the Turtles, and I was an official member of the association, as well as being with John Entwistle, Jack Bruce, Alan Parsons.
Great bands, yeah.
But so we were doing this gig, and they do a Zappa medley, like a Frank Zappa medley. At the end of their show, they do a little piece of Peaches and Regalia, the Zappa tune, the instrumental Zappa tune.
Right.
And it's a pretty complicated piece of music.
Right.
And then they go into Eleanor, the song Eleanor, and then Happy Together is the last song, closing song of the thing. So it's a little medley. So I'm learning Peaches and Regalia, and I'm doing it a particular way. No one's going to play it the way Frank Zappa played it, but I'm figuring it out to the best of my abilities.
Right.
And then the night before, I go, there's got to be an easier way to play that. And I figure it out now another way, different positioning, different fingerings, whatever. And so the night of the gig comes, and when the part comes, I've got both parts in my head mixed up. And I just play some crazy thing that was just out of this world. And I felt so like an idiot, you know. And afterwards, even Howard Kalin just went, really, over the mic when he heard what I was playing. But after the show, backstage in the dressing room, I went into their dressing room and I went, Mark, Howard, I'm really, really sorry. I really apologize for blah, blah, blah. And they went, for what? And I went, you know, the thing in Peaches and Regalia, the lick. And they went, and they went, oh, don't worry about that. And Mark Volman went, no, that's over with. Don't ever worry about what's over with already. That's what he said to me. So it's like, okay, great. We all get to go home, get paid and go home, and nobody got killed, you know. So.
Well, I could go on talking to you forever. I mean, really, I can't. But Jimmy, do you have any more questions? Because we got to let him go in a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have any type of guitar that you love to play? What's your favorite type of guitar?
You know, they're all like different work horses, you know, each, you know, the right tool for the right job kind of a thing, you know. Okay. So I have Telecasters, I have Les Paul, I have a Firebird, I have a bunch of Strats, I have all kinds of Paul Reed Smiths, whatever, you know, and I have 22 Strats, and each one of them is a different type of a Strat. It's got something different about it that makes it a different type of a Strat or whatever, you know. And so I really enjoy playing Strats, but I also love to play Les Pauls and SGs and whatever. So cool. You know, they're all great to me, you know.
Wow.
So,
well, I have a collection of signed guitars. I have to get a Godfrey signed guitar for my walls pretty soon.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
You got Elvis guitar too, don't you?
I have a lot of guitars. Yeah, I have a lot of them.
Jimmy Dill's got Elvis guitar.
Elvis guitar?
Yeah.
Elvis?
Well, it's not an actual Elvis guitar. It's sort of a replica of an Elvis guitar.
Right. It's a replica, but it's still.
Yeah. But I have some cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to get a Godfrey one. You know, that's what I need next.
I have a bass. I have a bass from Jack Bruce.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that Jack Bruce signed. Actually, gave it to me from my son. I made a deal with him. I brought him a Gibson J200 acoustic guitar, and he gave me one of his basses for my son.
Wow.
So cool.
So I got upstairs in the landing. Yeah.
Nice.
I love the fact that you were with all these bands and you're still a somebody. You know, people know you because unfortunately, you know yourself. The people in the bands don't know the people in the bands. I mean, when we listen to the song, we listen to the band. We don't know all the people in the band. So their names become nameless to us.
You know, it's nice to know that we make that kind of a difference because most people don't care who's in the band. If they're going to see somebody, they don't care who's in the band. It doesn't matter. You know, they just went to see that one person.
Right.
When you know that there's a band that's going to really do justice to their music and you're going to be hearing them as authentically as if you were, you know, listening to the record or whatever, you know. So, you know, we feel good about that. Of course, it makes us feel really, really good, you know. Yeah.
Amazing show. That's all I can say. Can you do us a favor before you go to Godfrey? Can you do a sweeper for us, maybe on the show, and then one for the radio station?
Sure.
Okay, so you're going to say this is the Jimmy Deal Celebrity Spotlight Show, and I'm Godfrey Townsend, and you're listening to Jimmy Deal Show, and then you're all listening to Hamilton Radio, same thing.
Celebrity Spotlight Show? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
So hey, listen to the real Jimmy Deal on Celebrity Spotlight.
The real deal, Jimmy Deal.
The real Jimmy Deal on Celebrity Spotlight.
Don't complicate it.
All right. Hey, you're listening to The Real Jimmy Deal on Spotlight Celebrity Radio on Hamilton Radio. My name's Godfrey Townsend.
That's good. I'll edit it. Don't worry.
There you go. Doc, any parting shots for Godfrey before we go?
I'll do another one.
Godfrey, you had such a great time with you, and I'd be honest with you. Anytime you want to come back, just let us know. We'll be glad to have you. And if you want to do anything on the Roku channel or something on the radio station, just let me know. We'll do something. I mean, I'm only in Jersey, so I'm not that far from you.
Okay, yeah. Well, now that I know or whatever, I'll always be letting you know when I'm doing something or whatever, so we can maybe hook up again. You know, we should do one every few months or something like that.
Listen, I'm on board. If you want to?
Awesome.
We got
That's
Liberty
great.
coming. You can even be our guest co-host if you want sometime. If you want, we welcome everything.
Absolutely, be great.
Thanks.
Any parting shots? Doc, any parting shots for Godfrey before he rolls?
You mean the pictures?
No. I said, do you have any questions before Godfrey?
I asked him pretty much everything. Now I could talk to him all night, but I know he's got to get going. He's got things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Godfrey. I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, man. It was great and an honor to have you. Really.
It really was. Yep. And an honor to meet you too.
Thanks. For
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I enjoyed myself as well.
Okay. Thank you.